Good afternoon, everyone. So very warm welcome to our Tuesday talk. And the theme for this month is work-related upper limb disorder. So I'll be handing over to Derry shortly, who's going to talk us through some things about how we sit and how we work and how that can support or can damage our upper limbs. And many of us obviously have desk jobs, and sitting in one position all day is not good. So, but you're very welcome this afternoon. Lovely to see you all. So do keep yourselves on mute during the session while Derry is talking. Justine is here and she'll be monitoring the chat function. So if you do have any questions, please do pop those in the chat and we'll have an opportunity to come along and look at those towards the end of this session. The session is being recorded today. If you don't want to appear in the recording, please just keep your camera off, keep yourself on mute. When we get to the questions, though, if you do not worried about the recording, then please do unmute yourself and take part. But no silly questions, so please join in with the chat as and when you want to. Derry, over to you.
Thank you very much. So my name's Derry, as Michelle said earlier on. I'm going to be taking you through this presentation. It's not too long. It's only about 16 slides and it's lots of facts and figures, but I'm just using it as a prompt. So we're just going to be talking about work-related upper limb disorder. And so I just wanted to ask or get a show of hands of anyone who is familiar with upper limb disorder. Have you heard it before? Just a show of hands if anyone is happy to do that. Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? Okay, so upper limb disorder, the term is work-related upper limb disorder, and it can cover a range of illnesses. So some of these you may be able to see in front of you. So it ranges from repetitive strain injury, which I think a lot of you may be familiar with, carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, tennis elbow, musculoskeletal conditions, and just general aches and pains. So that is exactly what we're going to be discussing today, the aches and pains that we tend to ignore, and we think it's just something simple, and as time goes on, it gets worse and worse, hence why we're having these discussions. So why and where do we get these conditions? Well, it's normally because of force. So we may be doing something forcefully. It could be because we're doing something frequently and for too long. And uppermost is that we're doing it in a very awkward position. So we may be sitting for too long. We may be sitting in a position that we may think is fine, but over time it will cause permanent damage. And this is why we need to really have a look at what we're doing and how we can change the way we're working. So this is just an overview of some figures, facts and figures. So in the year 2021 to 22, there was over 477,000 work-related musculoskeletal cases. So these are the cases that we mentioned earlier on. And of those, 139,000 workers suffer with work-related musculoskeletal disease. And because of that, 27% are suffering with ill health long-term. So these are the figures that we're trying to improve on. And the only way we're going to be able to improve on them is to be informed about what is actually happening and to see how we can change our everyday working pattern. It's not going to be done overnight, but hopefully with continued discussions around this, then hopefully we will change the perception of sitting. So because of that, we're wasting we have 1.7 million workers who are reported work-related illnesses. Now it's down from 1.8, but it's still a very massive figure. And of those, 609,000 are new cases. And the remainder of those are long-standing cases. And these then go ahead to contribute towards stress, depression, and anxiety. So what can we do about it? And who is affected by it? Well, as you can see, anyone can be affected with these conditions, from cooks to clerical workers, admin workers. And there's just one case study. I'm not going to go into it, but there were some air hostesses that worked with Virgin Atlantic. They worked in the first class business area, and they were offering massage to individuals only for a short period of time. But because they were doing it continuously, they developed an ache and pain in their thumbs. Eventually, they took it to court and they were awarded damages. So these air hostesses, they weren't doing that all day. It was just a service they were offering to customers for a short while. But because they were doing it continuously over a long period of time, they developed a condition. So how do we know we've got these conditions? As we were talking earlier, both myself and Michelle, one of the things we were saying is that normally we just have an ache. And we just think, oh, it's just an ache. It's in my neck, it's fine, because it doesn't seem too bad. But what happens is if that's left unchecked, then it develops into something worse. And the only way you're going to know exactly what the problem is by asking for an MRI scan. You may decide to go for an X-ray. An X-ray will not show up if there is issues with your discs or the soft tissue. And that is normally where the problem starts. It's in your soft tissue, which doesn't show up on an X-ray. So for this reason, we're encouraging individuals is if you've got any aches, any pains, get them looked into. Go along to your GP, tell them the work you do, tell them how you're sitting, how long you're sitting for, and what you would like to see from that. I know MRIs aren't cheap, but at the end of the day, if you can alleviate some of the problems, then it will go a long way to maintaining good health. So at this point, I would normally tell everyone to stand up and move, but we're not going to do that. We're only on here for a short period of time. So I'm going to go straight on to the next slide. So how do we change our mindset then? Because as we all know, we get into work, we've got a long list of things that we need to do and we want to achieve it. No one wants to go into work and they just sit in idle. So it's about rewiring how we work. It's about looking at new ways of working. It's about thinking about the tasks that we're doing. It's about thinking outside of the box, finding new ways to do things, mix and match. I did some research recently all about flow rate. And I don't know if anyone's like me, but once I get into work and I know what I need to do, then I crack on. I want to get a full day's work in. But what happens is once we get into that flow state, if we're not careful, we stay in that flow state and we continue to do what we're doing. We won't take a break. If we are, we go quickly grab a coffee and then we come back and we sit and we continue. This is what we're trying to get individuals to look at. We're not saying you cannot get into your flow state, but it's about coming back out, taking regular breaks, doing something differently. If you sent something to the photocopier to be photocopied, go along and pick it up. While you're there, make yourself a cup of coffee. But what we're trying to stress is changing that working habit, trying to get individuals to move more. Sorry, I should have said, if anyone's got any questions, please go ahead and ask, but you can ask them afterwards as well. So what methods are we going to employ to try and change our work habits? Well, one of the things we're looking at is taking ownership for the way we're working, prioritizing your health. This is an individual responsibility. And for this reason, we're trying to motivate individuals to be proactive, to look at things that they can do to change their working pattern. I know a lot of us are working from home, so even more so, we need to be conscious to get up and to move around and do other things. So how often should we be moving? The recommendation is every hour you move for at least 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. So that could mean moving away from your desk. As I said earlier, could mean going along, picking up your photocopying from the photocopying machine. Could mean going into the kitchen, grabbing yourself a cup of coffee, tea, whatever you prefer. It could mean that you decide to have a walk-in meeting. I've got a colleague that has designed a template. And if you wanted to have a walk-in meeting, you may not want to do it today. It's a bit cold, a bit rainy. But especially as the warmer months come up, you may want to decide that you can do a walk-in meeting. There's different routes, different lengths of time, so you can fit that in to your normal working day. You can mix and match, like I said before, your routine, what you're doing. But you need to be imaginative, because it's by being imaginative that we will then alleviate some of the problems that we are seeing on the rise. So I know it's difficult, and we've been working this way for many, many, many years. So to now say, right, we're going to change the way we're working, it's a big task, but it can be done. We can develop new pathways. We can develop new habits. If we are able to do this, then we will have a better working relationship. And when we come into work, it will be second nature. So instead of getting to your desk, sitting down, getting everything ready, and then typing away and doing what you need to do, try and do things differently. Get away from the norm and develop a new norm. It's going to take time. It requires patience, but we're all working at this together. At the moment, we are devising a list of links that you can click onto, and it shows you simple exercises that you can do while you're sitting. Just simple stretches, simple movements, nothing that's going to take more than 5 minutes, but it is encouraging movement, encouraging you to change your position. Once we've got all of these things in place, it is the normal thing that we relapse. We go back to what we do normally because that's comfortable. That's why we work the way we do, because it's comfortable. We've got our desks. We want to sit there. We want to crack on. So you will relapse. You will go into work. You will find yourself sitting at your desk and being there for maybe an hour, 2 hours. Lunchtime arrives. You eat your lunch at your desk and you realize, I've not stood all day. But don't worry, because this will take time. It's going to take time. You need to continue to reassess how you're working, and then you need to continue to do the new things that you've put in place. But more than anything else, and the only thing I really want to stress from this, is to put yourself first. Because when you're ill and you're incapacitated and you're at home, you'll say to yourself, why didn't I do this before? And the reason why I say that is I'm a prime candidate for RSI. I was diagnosed with it many, many moons ago, and I was actually in a wheelchair. So when I did all my research and looked up RSI and the things that happen through RSI, I thought, oh no, they're over exaggerating. And then lo and behold, it happened to me. Fortunately for me, I've been able to rehabilitate myself. I've had to have an operation, quite a serious operation. I thought I'd be in a wheelchair permanently, but I had very good physicians. They were able to operate, take the offending disc out, and here I am on 2 legs, still moving around. Not 100%, but I'm thankful for each day. So it's something that is really, really important. It's something that we tend to fob off because it's not a terrible ache. It's not a terrible pain. We just tend to live with it. But unfortunately, if you continue to live with it, it will escalate to the point that you could be in a wheelchair. And I'm not saying it to frighten you. It's very real. So with that, I have finished my presentation. I'm hoping you've got questions to ask, and I don't mind answering them. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you, Derry. That's really helpful. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat, but I have got I'll start the questions off, maybe other people then get going. So I wondered what you sort of the importance of doing VDU risk assessments, that people do those to make sure that they're sitting properly when they are sat down. What's your advice on those be?
So we're in discussion at the moment with a young lady that is does the DSEs. We're trying to get that looked at, because being part of public health and part of the physical activity team, what we do know is that by sitting for too long, not only is it doing damage to our upper limbs, but it's also doing damage to our heart. So there's research out there saying if we're sitting for too long, we can develop heart disease. So purely on that basis alone, we're trying to get individuals to move more. And so saying that, we're in the process, there is some sit to stand desks that we've got in the office. So we're trying to encourage individuals just to move more. And the VDU system, where they measure you and make sure that you're sitting correctly, we know it's law, but we're trying to come away from that, because individuals think if you're just sitting then and they've done it correctly, then it's fine. And we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to get away from sitting is fine, but you need to get up and move around and do other things.
Thank you.
Hope
So
that
yeah,
answers
just
your question.
yeah, no, thank you. That's a really interesting point. So it's obviously it's law to do your VDU risk assessments, and we strongly encourage everyone to do those and to report any issues to your manager. I know there's a mixture of people on the call, some people from the council, some people from external workplaces. So do your VDU risk assessments to make sure you are sitting properly when you are sitting, because that's obviously going to cause more problems if you're not sitting properly and you're sitting wrongly for long periods of time, but also to get up and move around when you can. I noticed there's a question in the chat which I'll come to in a moment. Just following on from that, Derry, for those people working at home, have you got any tips for when people are working from at home for moving around more? It might be more difficult with lack of space, perhaps.
Choosing where you're working, I think, is the most important thing. If you are working at home, I'm working at home at the moment. I've purchased a little contraption, which I'm going to take a picture of, and we're going to try and get some more. But it's about breaking up whatever you're doing. And I know we're at home, I know you're working, you want to get things done, but try and plan your work. So you've been typing, you've been answering emails, you've been sending emails. Go away and take a break. Go in the kitchen while you're boiling the kettle. Do some sit to stands, do some squats, do some twists, circulate your shoulders, do hunches, stretch up, twist, all these different things. If you can incorporate those while you're making your tea, your coffee, if you're stopping for lunch, go away from the computer, walk down the high street, depending on where you live. I don't know where you live, but just move. That's the recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, and I know a couple of places I've done some work where they've recommended or they've put policies in place where if you do a lot of back-to-back Teams meetings, that you have 10-minute gaps between the meetings, so that
Yes.
you've got that time to obviously make a drink and use bathroom facilities, but to
Yes.
get up and stand, walk around,
Yeah.
maybe stand up while you're on a phone call. People can't
Yeah.
see you, they don't know that you're standing up. And even
Yeah.
if you're fortunate enough to have a sit to stand desk at home, you can obviously stand up in a Teams call, no one would necessarily know. No, thank you for that. We have got one question in the chat. I don't know if you can help with it, Derry. A lady says, how do you get a GP to take it seriously that you need an MRI? They've been back and forth and they will not agree and only prescribe painkillers. Any advice on that one?
Right. So I'm just going to use my experience as an example. So I had a pain for literally years, to the point I thought it had gone away and you just muddle through. And then one morning I went to get up to see my husband off to work and I could not take my head off the pillow. And it was at that point that the ambulance was called. Shows how long ago it was, because the ambulance came and I was taken to hospital. The consultant that saw me asked what I did for a living. He said, do you do sports? I said, yeah, I'm a fitness fanatic. I do all of that. He said, no, it's not that. He said, what work do you do and how do you sit? And I'll never forget those words, because it was at that point I thought, that's it. I'd never ever put the two together. And I was in muscle spasm. And he explained that I'd been holding the tension in my body for so long, that my body had gone into spasm. So unfortunately, I was diagnosed, or I was given painkillers and muscle relaxants. I didn't see another consultant for another 3 years because, like the question in the chat, the doctor didn't take it seriously. He just said, go somewhere warm, hopefully it'll go away. But I went private. That's what I did. I went private and I went to Summerfield in Maidstone, when Summerfield used to be Maidstone. And that's where I had the MRI scan. I had to pay for it. But fortunately for me, I was a member with Birmingham, so they reimbursed. But that's what maybe you will have to do, is that you'll probably have to vouch to go private and then get the money back, or it's your health. You may have to fork out to do it. But the doctors won't take it seriously until you're incapacitated, which is the sad thing. And maybe if you can explain and say what work you're doing, you know, why these things are happening, maybe they may take it more seriously. But as we know with healthcare, it's only when you're incapacitated and they take it seriously.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. That's such a shame, isn't it? I think I would say that, yeah, if you can afford things like Benetton, definitely take up that extra help. They can reimburse you for those things or cover those costs. But even just advocating for yourself, to don't take no for an answer. Maybe seek a second opinion, ask to see a different GP if there's another one at your surgery, or perhaps try going to things like other sort of services that there are. Thinking of like things like out of hours through 111 and stuff. For a weekend, sometimes you can get different answers through different channels, can't you? Thank you very much, Terry. I know Justine's put the feedback form in the chat, so if you can fill that in for us before you head off today. We really value your feedback on these sessions to see how helpful you found them and if they've met your expectations, so that we can shape them for the future. Did anyone else have any other questions about managing upper limb disorders before we close for the day? Do you pop things in the chat or unmute yourself? Doesn't seem to be any further questions, Derry. So I think I'll just sort of like summarise saying that I think the answer is sort of move more, break up your work and plan accordingly. Much as you would if you were, I suppose, working out in the garden, you wouldn't constantly be digging all day. You'd break up the tasks and do it. So as much as possible, do try and do that with your work day. Put in bits of movement where you can. And just keep reassessing, as Derry said, reassessing what you're doing, and put yourself first, because self-care isn't selfish. We've only got one of us and we need to look after that one of us. So yeah, thank you very much, Derry. It's just someone just typing in the chat, so I'll just hold on for a minute in
The
case
other
that's
thing I
another
wanted to
question.
say, Michelle, is that we're in the process. I'm going to have a word with Phil at some point, and we're trying to embed some links into the council's own web page. So at some point when it does go live, there will be links in there where you can go on, and there'll be videos just showing what sort of exercises you can do as you're sitting there or standing. So we'll be embedding those in there as well at some
Oh,
point.
that's fantastic. So that's definitely something for everyone to look out for. Have a keep an eye on the council website, on the public health pages for those links coming soon. As Debbie said, just rolling your shoulders and doing some stretches. It's really helpful. So I've still got someone typing in the chat, so I'm just going to hold off in case it's a question. Yeah, but no, last chance for any further questions before we finish for today. Oh, so the links and information will be on the Better Medway Get Active page. So hopefully they'll be available very soon. So do keep an eye out for those, and you can subscribe on the council website to the Public Health Better Medway newsletter. So if you do that, that'll be a way of being notified that those bits are now live on the page. If there's no further questions, thank you very much everyone for joining this lunchtime. You're free to go, but please don't forget to fill in the feedback form, as that is really helpful to us. Thank you again for joining. Thank you, Derry, for your informative slides. Very helpful. Thank you everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.